Barry, thank you very much for joining this project. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Yeah, welcome.
So Barry, before starting, would like to tell about your experience in the real estate industry and the PropTech ecosystem, please.
The experience in the real estate industry. My experience, Jesus. I've been in the real estate industry since I think 15 years by now, and since the last 7 years in the PropTech ecosystem, if you can call it like that. But we're not really in the ecosystem like working with other startups or companies, accelerators in the PropTech. We're doing just our own thing, working with partners which are mainly construction companies and precast factories. It's not that we are entering in this movement, we're just following our own path. And from that perspective, we make sure that we can provide products and services which have which are beneficial.
Excellent. And about your company, why and how it was created?
Why? Because I believe that with automation you can build faster, cheaper, more sustainable. And how? I went to the Chamber of Commerce and I founded the company. And then then the first step was developing the technology, secondly it was looking for partners, and then thirdly it was about delivering the first projects, and then step by step you slowly grow a bit.
Yeah, the idea is in this question is to understand how did you get and which problems do you face during your experience. And so usually, and this when usually people when create a company, they usually are trying to solve a problem, and this kind of problems, if you had it during your experience, so did you try to find to solve it?
The problem is there are multiple problems like labor shortage, material shortage. The buildings should be sustainable and durable, so pricings go up. There is no capacity to build. With automation, you're addressing those problems. So again, building faster, cheaper, more sustainable. And then instead of using the technology ourselves, we are mainly focusing on selling the technology because we see that those problems, a lot of construction companies, they are having them. So before we could solve such a problem, it was about investing and developing the technology ourselves, using it and gaining knowledge about it and experience. Based on that, also gain credibility, and from that credibility, start selling the equipment, as well as using it more in our home market as a general contractor.
Okay, that's good. And what exactly your company do, and what the products and solutions you have?
What we actually do, we sell printers, as well as software and material. We make sure that our partners, they are capable of printing the concrete elements, so that eventually with those concrete elements they can build manholes, elements of a bridge or buildings. And then building those products, buildings or bridges, should be cheaper and faster compared with conventional methodologies.
So are you looking to different levels of, for example, low income construction places, or just high level construction? And what are you looking in terms of price and cost benefits? So what are you trying to?
For us, it doesn't matter whether it is a high end housing or low end housing. We are able to address also the low end housing, for example, social housing, either here in the Netherlands or in India. Although the economics in those countries, here in the Netherlands and in India, are completely different. This is possible since we can adjust the models or the designs that we are building by means of 3D concrete printing. So And then, of course, it depends on the economy, what the height of reduction is. We aim to reduce in between 10 to 30% of the overall construction cost.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And what are the key points of differentiation of your company?
What are the key points of what?
Differentiation. So what you are different from other 3D companies?
We are the only company globally that is doing everything. And so it's not only about selling a printer, as well as the material, as well as printing ourselves. And we, with architects and structural engineers, design and engineering our own buildings, building ourselves here in the Netherlands as a general contractor. As a result, we're gaining a lot of knowledge, practical knowledge, in which we are in a better position to support customers.
In which countries do you operate today?
In which countries do we work currently? Most of the companies in the Middle East, several countries in Northern Africa, then several countries in Europe, several states in America, then also in Paraguay, and then in the Asian Pacific, like Indonesia, India, New Zealand, Australia, and Japan.
Wow, it's a lot. And in Latin America, so as well?
Yeah, in Texas as well as in California, we're now building printers. That's also the main thing. We build the printers, we sell them to that company, then they want to build with it, and we provide them with the design of the thing that they want to build, like a house or a bridge or whatever. And then they hire our architect and structural engineer due to the knowledge that we have.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us about a successful case with clients? A case. Don't need to name someone.
Oh yeah, within like 3 months we are being able to design and engineer a complete apartment complex in Mumbai, India, which is meeting the local construction regulations. And then we've done several buildings in the Middle East, 3, in Saudi Arabia, in Sharjah and in Dubai. And we have done also, that's a success story, within like 2.5 months, one building in Milan. From design, engineering, printing, and finishing it.
Mm-hmm. That's nice. And well, what are you looking for at the moment in terms of investments, expansion, consolidation, growth?
Yeah, and we're looking for a key to solve the COVID situation, because then a lot of countries go off their lockdown, and then business can continue as normal, and then we are happy.
So
from that perspective, if that is possible, then we can grow a 100%. We don't need an investment, and then our expansion is 100% growth compared with last year. So yeah. And now due to COVID, we need to we see that some things are in delay, and as a result, we need to make sure that some new clients, customers, the deals are being made, so that we can fill in those gaps.
Okay. And well, talking about the real estate market, do you think it's seen as a conservative in relation to other sectors? Does this also occur in the countries you currently in?
Yeah, I think it's a very conservative market, the real estate market. For example, in the Netherlands, there are like 120,000 construction companies alone. And so I can imagine that globally there are like millions of construction companies. If I see the amount of construction companies that are actually interested in new kind of technologies like ours, then that percentage is really, really small. I think construction companies are mainly focusing on their operations, looking only at the projects that they have in hand. And as a result, they don't see what is actually happening from a global perspective. Yeah, If we see, and yeah, that's also due to the fact due to that we know that we should focus on one customer per country or one partner. That's why we're working in several countries in which we have one dedicated partner, and we have been lucky that in several countries we found one of the most innovative partners to further slowly implement 3D concrete printing in there as well as in the global that countries its construction process.
In your opinion, what's the role of startups and new technologies in the shift of mentality of the construction sector?
Yeah. What I see is that in the startups, they develop some new technologies, and then what I see what is happening is that the bigger companies, they take a share, and then eventually the bigger companies, they acquire such a startup so that the technology is in that bigger company, that only bigger company. That is what we see which is happening in most of the countries. I believe actually that should not be the case. I think a startup should always focus on being innovative and not take or sell a share to a bigger company. So a startup should be always independent so that they can focus on innovation and then work together with those bigger companies rather than be part of one of them. But of course they should push or drive this change by using new technologies in a, like I mentioned before, in a conservative industry.
Yeah, and well, considering your experience as entrepreneur, Airbnb, Booking.com, WeWork, they were invented by innovative guys. And what keeps big companies away from the development of products and solutions just like startups, in your opinion?
What keeps big companies away from the development of products and solutions? I don't have that experience. Now, our partners, our clients are actually one of the biggest construction companies. Most of our partners are in the list of the 100 biggest construction companies all over the world. And we don't share this opinion that big companies are afraid or don't want to develop some new products with the startup. We work with the biggest companies from France, Spain, and the Middle East, from India. So I think this is not true. That's my opinion.
That's really good to hear. Yeah, but so put that in another perspective. So what are the key successful factors that makes you partnership with these guys?
What is helpful is that, and that is also what most of those companies have, they have got a separate unit, a separate entity in which all the R&D is happening. So from that perspective, they have a really big budget. And with that budget, they can invest in those new technologies like 3D printing in our case and work together with a startup. And that means that within that separate entity, they also have got the freedom to do some experiments, to get acquainted with the new technology. And then, of course, when it is fully implemented within that separate entity, their biggest customer is their own bigger company. So I think, and that is something we see in several countries to which we sold a printer. And I think that's a good way to adopt such new technologies.
Well, and talking about this partnership you have made with several big companies, what are the type of partnership you think are the most valuable and sustainable for big corps and small and mid-sized high-tech companies?
We don't only have partnerships with the bigger companies, also with like small startups, who we partner. They purchase the printers and then they start building in their countries. What would be the most sustainable? I think in the end is that there is business growth. So if partners purchase a printer, then they should be capable to generate new business with this new technology. If they're not capable to generate new business, then their business is not a success. with our printer, which has a negative impact on ourselves. So what we always try is to make sure that our partner generates new business, and we know when they grow in their business, that will have a positive impact on our business, because if they grow, we grow as well.
Excellent. And one last question: if you could give a piece of advice to companies and that are at the beginning of the innovation journey, what would it be?
Yeah, well, it's not about innovation. I think a lot of people, companies, it's like, oh, we need to innovate, we need to innovate. Actually, you don't. It's not about the innovation, it's about solving a problem. So I think first you need to address and see what the problem actually is before you start innovation. And I think currently every company is like, oh, we are so innovative, blah, 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 blah. And then the goal is to be innovative, but actually it's not the goal to be innovative. It's not the goal to work with a startup. The goal should be to be faster, cheaper, more sustainable. And maybe you can do this as well by going 20 years back with an old technology.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Very strong position, I would say. Well, I have room out my questions.
Cool.
Barry, thank you very much for your participation. And as soon as we have this live content, I will share with you. And
Perfect.
besides, if you have videos or additional information you want us to attach to your videos or presentations, please just send me a mail and we add it to people that are interested to your content.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.